you are already aware of what happened in 1971, which was the birth of the fiat dollar. That is when the dollar was completely removed from the gold standard. This means you can just print it out of thin air, backed by absolutely nothing. And then in 1973, you have Henry Kissinger, who goes to Saudi Arabia. There, in the oil for security deal, it was decided that all the oil from the entire Gulf, that entire supply will be sold in dollars. And so that is where the petrodollar has its origins. Now, the system of the US dollar and the US Treasury is structured in such a way that on the basis of that very same cycle, the entire US economy's internal policy of quantitative easing and quantitative tightening gets decided, because you have the status of that single country's reserve currency. Okay, so all of that petrodollar money gets plowed back into the entire system. And within that framework, just as we have already explained in the two bucket theory, every single country was told that the nation right next to you, we will sanction them. So you take the dollars and arms. So this entire process of dollarization continued to play out across the whole world. And it was within that we saw the complete radicalization of the Indian subcontinent, a process in which Saudi Arabia and the UAE played a very significant role during that whole dollarization process, something that we are all aware of. It was specifically after 1971 that the scripts of Salim Javed started to appear in Bollywood. In those, you know how Amitabh Bachchan, that whole thing, oh, that is where the entire process began, like having a badge with 786 on it, or inserting words like Havas Ka Pujari, which means worshipper of lust, directly into the script, or words like Khuda, Kafir, Kafiro, all of these, Allah, Mawla, whatever you want to call it, all of these specific wordings, they started appearing for the sole reason that the era before 1971 was a time when everyone clearly remembers that you had to change your name. You had to adopt a Hindu name if you wanted to survive in the industry. And there is a history even before that time where it was generally believed that Bollywood was not a proper place to work at all. So in that, you knew that many actresses who were Muslim even before that. Right, when it started, I am talking about that time. But in between all this, there was a particular phase where if the actors had to stay afloat within the industry, they were required to have a Hindu name. But after the 1971 fiat dollar came along, that is when that whole era of radicalization really began. A time where on the highways of every single city in Bharat, properties on both sides were being purchased by just one single community. You can clearly see this happening, right? So this was the manner in which the petrodollar was systematically infused throughout the entire Bharatiya Upmahadweep. And it was during this period, you know, that all of those Khan movies became extremely popular. In those films, the character Prem was being shown, while on the other hand, bomb blasts were happening in every city across India. Is happening in every single city. And on TV, it is a completely different story. The Prem character is being shown. So this entire thing, you could basically say, was a kind of conversion. A conversion of our Bharatiya Sanskriti, you see, where all of these Arabized words were also being injected. And this entire process that used to take place, Dubai was the main center from where all of these transactions were being routed. You can talk about Dawood, the ISI, Pakistan's ISI, and the complete hold the underworld had over Bollywood. You see, you know that all of those, any and all of the good Muslim actresses that were there, they were all completely and totally sidelined within Bollywood. For instance, actress Taboo, for example. Then there was actress Dia Mirza. So you see, all of these actresses, the women who came from the Muslim community, they were actually never promoted at all. All right. And then there were all those relationships where, as you know, if a Hindu person happened to get married in Bollywood to a Muslim actress or perhaps a Muslim relative or any member of Bollywood, then that particular couple was completely boycotted. For example, Kunal Khemu and Soha Ali Khan. So the idea was that everyone was supposed to boycott that couple. Right? And you saw the exact same thing happen between Sushant Singh and Sara Ali Khan when the conversation about their affairs started to surface. So in what manner was Sushant treated? So this entire process of dollarization, and running parallel to it was the process of radicalization, and within that, the way all the funding was being routed, whether it was for protest finance or terror finance, or there is also talk about drug related businesses, right? A lot of different crimes. So all of these things were being routed through Dubai. In a certain way, it will almost seem to you as if the theme, that is our Khans, as if those three Khans have been in a way adopted by a certain section of countries. For example, Salman Khan has essentially adopted the UAE. Shah Rukh Khan has gone on to adopt Pakistan, and then Turkey and China have adopted Amir Khan. So you see, that old world order, the one of dollarization, has now been completely reversed. So now, in this process of reversal, you really shouldn't be surprised at all that with de-dollarization, the entirety of Bollywood got defunded, and in exactly the same way, you will begin to see that the Hollywood is also being defunded, because that installment, that funding installment, was coming from the dollar itself. Now that printing machine is no longer there, it is in the process of coming to an end. So now there is no more funding for them, right? And it is because of that you will see that very big changes are now happening. And of course, you already know that the Prime Minister has recently inaugurated the entire massive diamond bourse in Surat, which is the diamond hub for the entire world. And you already know that its port's international connectivity has now been fully established. So there was this whole era where, in order to sustain Mumbai, a very dirty political game was being played against the city of Surat. The Prime Minister knows that fact very well indeed. So all of these so-called fiat dollar cities, they are definitely bound to take a hit because of this de-dollarization process. So for all those people who are under the impression that you have artificially created these cities on the back of the Abrahamic one life concept and a single country's reserve currency, on NRI remittances, export and outsourcing projects, that is not a long-term method at all. So I think this realizations will come slowly. And now the Prime Minister himself has said it a second time. Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. This is the very thing we have been talking about for a year and a half. Right? Tier 2 and 3, because Tier 1 is essentially a fiat dollar setup sitting right where people have gone and replaced their parents with banks, with schools, with insurance companies, with maids, right? People were sitting there having replaced their parents with all of these things. Now is when they will finally understand what has actually happened. So let's see. This realization will eventually dawn on everyone, but I am not at all hopeful about Bollywood, because they are just not going to understand what it is they want or what to change. And how long can they keep doing those sweetie supari ads? Let's see how long those ads will even run, right? So they are completely defunded now. If they still do not seem to understand that they really need to take a right turn, then who on earth will be able to make them understand when they themselves just do not get it?